I have returned from the void, and I hunger for nostalgia.
It's no secret that the PS2 has some of the most iconic games of all time. From God of War, Ratchet and Clank, Kingdom Hearts, Devil May Cry. The game console has such a massive library and huge catalog. But today I want to talk about one game, one specific game, that held a very near and dear place in my heart. That game being Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. This game came out in the early 2000s and it captured my imagination as a kid. So as a result, I want to take a good look into it today and see what makes it special. What did I like about it, and does it still hold up today? And I'll be using official PS2 hardware to get as close to that experience as possible. So if you want to go ahead and join me, I'd love to have you for the whole video. And as a little teaser, I will be looking at some of the other games in the Sly Cooper franchise, so make sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell so that we all catch them. Without any further ado, I say we look at Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. The whole game revolves around Sly Cooper and his attempt to regain his birthright, the Thievius Raccoonus. This is a book that details several tips and techniques his ancestors used in becoming master thieves. The Cooper clan is a clan who exclusively steal from other criminals and thieves. Not because of any moral reasons, but rather because they want to prove that they're simply better than those other amateur criminals. This is such a wild premise for a kid's game. Like, how did Sucker Punch come up with this? Turns out that Sly's family clan has many rivals, and one such group is called the Fiendish Five. After tracking down the Cooper family, they straight up murder Sly's parents and steal the book. I find it interesting how this game, made for kids, outright has a home invasion, murder, burglary, and our main character becoming an orphan all in the opening cutscene. Sly does at least acquire some friends from all this, Murray and Bitley, and they help him steal things and grow as a person. Once they're all grown up, they decide to go out and retrieve the Thievius Raccoonus. Sly Cooper is a platformer. More importantly, it's a stealth platformer. What makes Sly Cooper special compared to other platformers is how it uses sneaking, stealth, and level design to make you truly feel as if you're infiltrating a heavily guarded fortress. While moving around, you can press and hold the circle button near areas covered in blue sparkles to walk on small ledges, stand on small points, and even walk across thin beams. The actual act of using this feature is incredibly fluid and smooth, and once you've done it a few times, it becomes second nature when playing. Each level integrates this feature wonderfully. Areas and objects with these blue sparkles fit into levels without feeling too out of place or out of the ordinary. Sly feels really fun to control, and thanks to his cane he wields, if he does come into any opposition while platforming, he can dispatch most enemies with a quick swing of the cane. However, Sly isn't a fighter. If he gets hit by any of the enemies even once, he will die. Luckily, if you gather 100 coins or find these items on the ground called Lucky Horseshoes, you will gain a Lucky Horseshoe. It will absorb one hit for you, and it stacks up to 2 times. And they're very generous with this item, and you'll find them quite frequently throughout the game. As you go through the game, you even get abilities and gadgets that can be used with the triangle button. You can dive, roll, drop a decoy, and even turn invisible. Now, while some of these abilities are cool and very useful, not all of them are useful. And while I was playing, I didn't nearly use as many as I thought I would. I only used a small number of them. The best way to convey how good the control scheme is would be to talk about the opening level. In order to learn more about the Thievius Raccoonus, where it is, and who has it, Sly decides to break into the International Police Headquarters in Paris and steals his own police file so he can learn more about the police, what they have on him, and who are the members of the Fiendish Five. What makes this level so good is how it naturally incorporates a basic tutorial and how it allows the player to experience all of what Sly can do while remaining in a relatively safe environment. We also get a basic intro into how the world works. It's just like ours, but every character is an anthropomorphic animal. Usually they have their animalistic traits complement key features of their character. Obviously, we have Sly being a raccoon, since raccoons can be stealthy and take things. Bentley's a turtle who is reclusive, but highly intelligent, which resembles how real-world turtles are actually super smart and secretly running the United States government.
The moon landing was
Earth
fake.
is
The
actually
FBI
hollow.
killed
Barber's
JFK.
a mole rat.
Increased
Santa Claus is
dogs.
part of the
There is
USSR.
a woman
out there for
My
me.
family's
The
proud.
devil is using anime to make every woman a homophobic lesbian. As the level ends, we get to meet a reoccurring character in the game, Inspector Carmelita Fox, who apparently has been chasing Sly for years now, and Carmelita begins to shoot at Sly immediately. Also, I wanted to point out that this shock pistol she has is absurdly powerful. It's able to break wood, metal beams, and even walls. Like, what kind of funding and laws do they have in furry Paris? This leads us into the first major section of the game, Raleigh's Storm Machine. This is a gigantic ship found off the coast of Wales, and it's led by the former aristocrat Sir Raleigh the Frog. Every aspect of this area has to do with machinery, shipbuilding, or Raleigh's treasure hoards. A thick, unending storm keeps people from getting too close to Raleigh's hideout, and the hub world itself is a large manor built on top of the ship. During his intro and through the game's levels, we learn about who Raleigh actually is. Raleigh is a mechanical mastermind who simply got bored of being rich and wanted some fun. However, instead of picking a sport or hobby, he chose to be a pirate. Not just any kind of pirate, but someone who sinks any ship, regardless of what that ship is. And this is the most special thing that Sly Cooper does in all of his games. He gives us interesting villains with interesting backstories, worlds that perfectly match those characters and their backstories, and in many cases, Sly Cooper humanizes his villains. And we can see behind the veil of how they became the people they are today. Take, for example, Mugshot, the host of the second world, Mesa City. This is a desert city ravaged by violent crime, gambling, and poverty. It's run by Mugshot, a hard-as-nails mafia boss who set up an entire criminal syndicate that drove away anyone not in league with him. We learn here that Mugshot was a bulldog, more specifically a runt, a literal runt of the litter, constantly being picked on by other larger dogs and bullies, and maybe even his own siblings. It wasn't until he saw the movie The Dogfather and other mafia movies that he decided he wasn't going to get bullied anymore. And he did just that. Worked out till he could literally crack the skulls of his bullies. He liked that power and decided to use his strength to commit crimes and become a true mafia dogfather. Everyone knows what it's like to be the little guy, and at one point we've all wanted to get back at those who wronged us. And most of us can see ourselves in Mugshot's shoes. Now, I hope no one has decided to commit violent crime, but simply put, Sly Cooper is a kid game that gives kids a glimpse into what creates a real villain. I want to point out there's a dog enemy in this section of the game that's on a leash and is treated as if it was a normal dog, despite every other character also being a dog.
And that's racism.
Sly Cooper actually decides to split up its level design into a few different types. You of course have platforming levels, which your goal is to get to the end, but you also have levels that resemble twin stick shooters, a pseudo turret section in which you protect Murray while he runs up to grab a key, and of course you have the most well-known extra levels that many people have a controversy or a problem with, that being a driving / the racing levels. As mentioned before, the most common type of level you're going to see is the standard platforming level. Most of the hub worlds have different sections blocked off by locks, and the only way to get rid of those locks is to acquire treasure keys, each one being found at the end of a platforming level. Now, platforming levels do have a few other things you can do with them, such as collecting various clue bottles, anywhere from 20 to 40 of them hidden throughout the level. Collecting these clue bottles allows you to open a safe in each one that will contain either an upgrade, a new ability, or improve your binoculars, or as this game calls them, the binocucom. On top of that, you also have the ability to complete the platforming level super fast, and this is called a Master Thief Sprint. Doing so will give you what's known as a commentary option whenever you replay that level, which will give you developer insight on how they wanted to make these levels. As for the non-platforming levels, you typically only have a few of them throughout the game. The first one you encounter is you try to defend a treasure key from a bunch of crabs, and then you have the next one being a race. The next one after that, I believe you defend Murray. There's a decent number of them. They're designed to break up the platforming levels and provide you with a little bit of variety. Each one does provide you with a key, and so you're gonna have to complete them if you want to progress through the game. Growing up as a child, I never really liked a lot of these levels, mainly because I felt they were a lot harder than the platforming levels. And as an adult, I can see they're not that hard. None of these non-platforming levels are super hard. They're difficult, but they're not crazy hard. The main thing is that it's just some of them aren't the best. Now look, I'm not saying they're a buggy mess or they're god-awful. I'm just saying they don't feel as snappy or as satisfying to complete as the platforming levels. Levels like Murray's Races don't feel like they fit the rest of the thieving theme. They can be fun. I actually had a lot of fun with the races, and I had a lot of fun with the twin stick shooter levels. But I would be lying if I said they 100% always match the tune or the feel of an area. For example, going back to Murray's race level in Mugshot's part of the game, Murray gets challenged to a race by a bunch of dogs. Each one of these dogs has a hot-rodded car that fits the general theme of gambling and drag racing in a loud American city. The idea that these dogs are out here wanting to gamble and race on anything they can get the chance to, it fits the theme. It's a dangerous area, there's lots of illegal racing. It makes sense there would be people looking to challenge others to a drag race. Meanwhile, in later parts of the game, you have to drag race again, but this time it's with monkeys in a rural region of China. It doesn't fit the atmosphere of the hub world or the other levels in the game. This isn't a highly motorized American city. This is a mountaintop Chinese village that has a fireworks factory, ancient temples, and many natural landscapes. Other levels like the twin stick shooters or the defend Murray as he gets ready to take a key fit general themes because the concept of defending somebody or trying to grab a thing while being on a boat isn't reliant on a particular theme. A key feature that makes every level fun to play has to be the art direction. Every world is crafted in a comic book style, and it allows for all kinds of expression in both world and enemies. Sir Raleigh's area is deeply connected to shipbuilding, and as a result, everyone there feels like a mechanic who has to be a bodyguard because apparently this guy can't afford enough squids. Mugshot's territory is amazing. It feels just like a dingy American city. You can smell the poverty around here. You can smell the high crime rate. The colors, oh my gosh, the colors are amazing. Despite being lots of reds and browns, there's greens and the neon signs everywhere. It just highlights the whole area. One of my favorites is gotta be Ms. Ruby's Swamp. A dark muddy green is used for the foliage of plants, dark browns for wooded areas. It all takes place at night. Meanwhile, splashes of color are everywhere on the enemies and the man-made structures. Candlelight illuminates the surrounding areas, and any paranormal phenomena has a ghastly purple color to it. See, Ms. Ruby is a voodoo priestess, and as such, bones, graves, her voodoo followers, they're just littered everywhere. As you scale the walls, steal her treasure keys, and smack around her underlings, there's an inherent sense of dread. All this conveyed through nothing but just the art direction, the lighting, the sounds enemies make when confronted. The game lets you feel the world. It's a great feeling. It's fantastic because everything revolves around her background. Being a voodoo priestess, it allows her to have all kinds of scary and dark imagery around her, while also not being too dark. This is a kid's game, and they don't show blood or anything, but they do get kind of goopy with things. Another fan favorite has to be the mountain villages in China. This is a fortress run by the Panda King. It's a land covered in snow, ice, and ancient Chinese temples. Here we get the pleasure of learning and meeting the Panda King, a failed fireworks artist who was last seen trying to impress people. He wanted to be a fireworks master, but people still viewed him as an amateur. He quickly used his knowledge of explosives to literally bury towns in snow. All throughout the levels here you can find fireworks. Some of them are used in level progression, while others are just for fun. And before you say it, yes, the Panda King does use martial arts like Po from Kung Fu Panda. The Panda King's area is really cool because it draws a good contrast. You have the red temples, which use reds and greens and nice browns, and then it's contrasted with the icy, snowy mountaintops, which are gray, blue, and white. It's a nice contrast and really lets you sink in the feeling that you're in a location, not just a game level. Now, no platform game is complete without a good boss battle. And luckily, Sly Cooper has fantastic bosses. Let's start with the first boss, Raleigh. He's fine. As the first boss, he isn't super challenging. His whole gimmick is that you need to jump from one platform to another as he chases you. And you do this until he shrinks, then you whack him. Raleigh is quite easy for a boss, which adds up since he's the first one. The boss fight does get mixed up here and there as certain platforms disappear. At one point you need to jump from one platform to another, and Raleigh does mix up his attacks. For a first boss, he's actually quite fun, as he's not super challenging, yet he still has a little bit of difficulty with him. I do in fact find that he's a little bit harder if you don't have the right jumping timing, but he's really easy and you'll be done with him in like, 5 minutes? The next boss is Mugshot, and his fight is way harder than Raleigh. Mugshot is immune to your cane attacks. Instead, you have to hit him with mirrors that rotate on an axle. Once you hit them all on the floor, it damages him by a third of his health. The cool thing about this fight is that Mugshot follows you the whole time, firing his guns if he catches you in his sights. It's quite intense, especially if you don't have a horseshoe to absorb his hits. And each floor of his boss fight gets harder and harder until eventually you're almost always out in the open. It's really, really intense and it's really fun. Ms. Ruby is the most standout boss in Sly Cooper. The whole fight is a rhythm game. The music is in sync with the voodoo she throws at you, and the time between each input is just enough to allow a little forgiveness while also being challenging. It's a well-known issue that in every remake of Sly Cooper on the PS3, PS4, and now PS5, the music is off with the button inputs, which completely ruins her fight. However, aside from that, if we're talking about the PS2 version, It's really, really fun. Ms. Ruby is surrounded by these dancing chickens, and the whole time, all the characters in the background are dancing along to the music. And it's really fun, it's really upbeat. While I did have trouble with this boss fight because of timing issues with my own capture setup, I still played it over and over and over. It's a lot of fun, and I'm really happy that it's in the game. And it's a shame the remake versions are a little bit, janky and can be quite bad. And next we have another bland, well not bland, but I should say easy boss, the Panda King. His fight is all about trying to get close to him and hitting him multiple times while dodging his special technique, Flame Fu. As for the difficulty of the fight, like I said before, it can vary based on how quickly you can get out of the way of his attacks. I've never had a problem with Panda King, even as a kid. If you just keep running around in a circle around him, he can't actually hit you unless he uses a ground sweep, which is really easy to dodge. Panda King isn't that hard of a fight. You can beat him easy, and trying to get up to him isn't that hard either. There are these places where you can hide from his flame fu that he throws at you, but it's never necessary. Like when you're up close to him, just run around in a circle and occasionally jump over the ledges, and he'll never have a problem with them. Now, Sly Cooper does have one last boss we need to talk about. However, we need to address his whole world first. It's time we talk about the biggest rival to the Cooper clan, Clockwork Owl. We begin this whole section of the game with little to no information on Clockwork. All we know is that he lives in the coldest, most remote part of Russia on top of a volcano. We start our ascent up his mountain in the van with a machine gun on top, where we learn that this owl has an army of robotic hawks, a slew of landmines, and a literal death ray. What kind of laws do they have in furry Russia? Afterward, we have to beat a whole bunch of magma slugs to get some computers. This is done to open a door. It's not a super intense level, but it does have a nice challenge to it. The van can ram into slugs, and it is nice to knock them back into lava. But my favorite mission in this whole section, outside of the boss fight, is the next mission, in which we have to free Carmelita Fox from a holding cell. Before this, she was always against us. In every level she appeared in, she was trying to shoot at us, stop us, and arrest us. She clearly outlined multiple times in her dialogue, she will never help us, she'll just want to get us in bars. She wants us to see justice. Yet now, she needs our help, and we are trying to save her. Clockwork trapped her here because she was investigating his death ray and trying to find a way to destroy it. And yes, we eventually do save her with the help of Bentley. And as a reward, she calls a temporary truce in order to stop Clockwork and his death ray. This is an interesting twist on the gameplay here. Instead of protecting Murray running up a hill, we have to play as Carmelita and protect Sly while he runs up a hill and he's trying to get his cane back from a bird that took it. While this isn't a major change in gameplay, it's still rather fun and a fun novelty to play as Carmelita and have Sly Cooper in your sights. Once we get back to playing as Sly, we have a rather tough platforming section where we climb the death ray as it sinks into lava. In the last level, by destroying some of the power cells and support beams while trying to help Sly, the death ray kind of lost its balance, I'm guessing, and started sinking into lava. This level is really fun and really intense, but most importantly, it is key to building tension in the game. You see, throughout this whole world, we have been able to select what levels we want to play, whether it's Raleigh, Mugshot, Misery, Panda King. We were undetected the whole time, sneaking around, picking level after level after level in our order, taking breaks whenever we wanted to. However, now, during Clockwork section, the game forces us to play level after level in its own order with no hub world and no breaks. It's like Clockwork is saying,
You have no control here, Raccoon. This is my domain. And you are not welcome.
and here, we finally get to meet the leader and the #1 rival to the Cooper clan, Clockwork. He is a mechanical cyborg owl who apparently has been alive for thousands of years. He was around to see the Coopers become master thieves, and he felt nothing but hatred for them. It's not totally clear what sparked this hatred other than jealousy, but many people have theorized that based on some of the things he says in his boss fight, the Cooper clan must have wronged him somehow, and that sparked his true hatred and the reason why he wants to destroy them. This hatred led him to study mechanics, robotics, and even immortality. He has lived for centuries off of hatred, slowly replacing his pieces with robotic replacements, just so he could one day prove to everyone that the Coopers are nothing but a bunch of amateur thieves and have no skills nor honor.
I will finish you like I finished your father. And the Cooper line will be erased, and the only master thief will be Clockwork.
His fight takes place in 3 parts, 2 jetpack segments and 1 platforming part. The first 2 segments are all about dodging incoming projectiles and firing at weak points in his body that Carmelita makes with her pistol. The second phase adds rings that you need to go through in order to not get hit, which they can catch you off guard if you're in one section and they're in the other section of the map. The most intense part, though, has to be the third phase for me. Here, you need to get to his head and beat it open with your cane. During this whole part, though, there's lightning, there's lasers, there's all kinds of hazards in the way, and you need to pull off some tight platforming to get there. And the whole time, Clockwork is spouting strange phrases as his brain fails. These phrases like having his feet together, picking flowers in a field, and even living in a cabin with somebody. Once you do get to him, though, you get to continually hit him over and over and over, rapidly defeating his health. And, of course, in the process, seeing parts of him fly off in all sorts of directions. However, you do and you will defeat him, and when he does, he sinks right into the lava. And at this point, we've done it. We've beaten the game. And we're getting the conclusion to the game. Sly reminisces about how Murray and Bentley were massive helps to him, and how he could not have done this without them. And he sees them in the back, prepping the van for a quick escape. However, Carmelita shows up, and she is more than ready to slap the cuffs onto Sly, because as she said, once Clockwork's dead, our truce is over. But she kindly gives him a 10-second head start. And what does Sly do? He leans right on in, he risks it all, and gives Carmelita a big kiss. And, of course, he cuffs her to the railing to ensure him and his friends escape. Oh, Sly, you're playing with fire, aren't you?
So, is Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus still a good game and still worthwhile to this day? Hell yes! Sly Cooper has some of the best controls in any game I've ever played before. Has great level design, a colorful world, interesting characters, and a story that can be followed along with, even if it is a bit on the wacky side. It definitely has a
comic book style Saturday morning cartoon vibe to it, and I think that fits the game perfectly and makes it super, super replayable. Now, yes, not every level slaps hard. There are certain levels like the racing or the defending Murray sections that really do get frustrating and can even be boring after a while. And those do bog down the game. However, I think that the game's other levels still help circumvent this. And yes, the game's animations do kind of look a bit animatronic. However, if we really look at it, a lot of games have the same problems with that whole animatronic look to them. It's not just Sly Cooper's fault. It's just a matter of age and being on old hardware. If you are interested in playing Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus, you can do it today on almost any PlayStation. It has a PS2 version, PS3, PS4. It even has a new version on the PS5, so you have no real reason why you can't pick it up today. And I really think you should. It's an amazing game and deserves way more love. I'm hoping that it'll one day get a true HD remake that perfectly encapsulates everything good about it, while tuning up the things that it does lack in. But it's still very much worthwhile to this day. With that being said, I think I'm going to go ahead and end the video off here. I want to thank y'all for watching this video and taking time out of your day to see what I had to show you and listen to my ramblings. If you're interested in subscribing, please do. It's a major help to me, helps promote the channel, and keeps my content running smoothly. Gives me tons of motivation to make more videos. With that, I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye!